What better way to show someone that you love? Putting them in your estate plan. Flowers, thing of the past. Chocolate, no good. Diamonds are probably still good. Put someone in your estate plan. Why? Because it's an act of love and compassion. You save them from a point in their life when they're upset about losing you. If a person loses a parent or a loved one, do they immediately feel like taking the will and probating it? That actually would be the second best option. The worst option would be for them to have no estate plan, and then they have to do an administration. So if a person passes away without a will, without an estate plan, without a trust, you are stuck with the plan that the state gives you. And I just had to explain to someone today, if a person passes away without a will and they have a spouse and children, you want to provide for your spouse, you want to provide for your children. But without a will, your children inherit along with the parent. So I'm a married person. I want everything, should I predecease my wife, I want everything to go to her. That's real. And I have 3 children. I might give the children some things, some portion of money or a specific bequest or a treasured watch, wedding band. I might want to give that one of my children. But I don't want the children to inherit the marital home. It's with my wife. I want her to get that, because why should she have to rely on or request for the children, from the children at some future point? I'd like to sell it. Will you agree to sell the house with me? That's for a future time. My greatest act of love, I'm sure she might think there's a few others, would be to have an estate plan, place everything in a will or a trust. Once I have an estate plan, do I have to do anything else in the future? Do I have to do anything in the future? Well, you really should. An estate plan is not a set it and forget it type of event. To do is periodically review it. All the time I'm contacted by people that have wills that are outdated. Today, in fact, I received a telephone call from an 82-year-old prospective client. Other than the executor of the will has outlived all of the rest of her beneficiaries. She needs to change the will. When should you change a will? You need to look at your life circumstance. Any birth of a new child, any death of a child, any death of an executor. If your circumstances changed in that you were single and now you're married, or you were married and now you're divorced. If you have different assets. So when perhaps you made a will at one point and you didn't have a property, or you referenced the property and you no longer have a property. In this video, I'm interchangeably using will and estate plan. But by the same logic, if you have a trust and you mention items within the trust, beneficiaries within the trust, certain asset classes, and things have changed, well, then you also have to change your plan. So, and if you change your mind about something, you're giving to your kids in equal shares, and now you want to change it to give it to the children in a different distribution pattern. So instead of 1/3 each to 3 children, maybe you want to give 60%, 20%, 20%, or some other variation. Maybe you have grandchildren that you'd like to give specific bequests, will or trust was written. You didn't have those children. So I have mentioned, I have a friend, the will that he's currently using, not using it all, hopefully, the will that he currently has in place was done between the birth of his first and second child. He only has 2 children. He never prepared a new will. And this is more than 25 years this will is in existence. And every once in a while I'll see him and he'll say, I need to do my will. And he still doesn't. Don't be like him. Change your will. Your circumstances change. I don't have many assets and I don't own any real estate. Do I still need an estate plan? I believe you do. If you have no assets, if you have no money, if you have no property, and you have no next of kin, don't worry about it. You don't need a plan. However, if you have $2 in the bank, you should at least direct where you want those $2 to go. I want $1 to go to my oldest child, $1 to go to my youngest child, something like that. If you don't have real estate, well, then you don't have to have anything in your will about real estate. But if you have a car, if you have a bank account, if you have a checking account, if you have any assets. So the question posed was, I don't have significant assets. But do you have any? Well, if you have any, then you should have a plan. And the plan does not need to be complicated. It does not need to be expensive. It can be appropriate to your level of income. So a $2 estate still requires a plan. Just to say who you want to receive those $2 and when. So it could very well be upon your passing. Upon my passing, I would like my $2 to go to here, there, wherever. Now, if you want to be a little more complicated with your plan, we can say, should I stick with $2? Or should I give you a real world example? If you have any sum of money in the thousands range, I'd like $1,000 to go to my church. I'd like $1,000 to go to my mosque or synagogue, or my house of worship. I'd like $1,000 to go to St. Jude's Children's Hospital or some other hospital, entity, charity. So you could do that. If your high school, your alma mater, wherever you want the money to go, you can put that in a plan. Whether you have a lot or a little. Significant is in the eye of the beholder. So if you don't have a significant estate, you still should have a plan. And if you have any type of wealth, personal wealth, property wealth, memorabilia, even something with no intrinsic value, but it's an heirloom, it's a watch or a piece of costume jewelry. If you wanted to go to a loved one, a treasured niece or nephew, your children, a specific child, like I have a wedding band. I would like to give my wedding band to a specific person, this child or that child, a niece or nephew. You should have a plan. If you need a plan, frankbrunolaw.com. I'll work you through it. I'll help guide you. See you soon.